My music magazine, TaylorMade Mod, uses, develops and challenges many different forms and conventions found in other music magazines that have influenced it, i.e. Mojo, NME and Q in particular. As it is a mod subcultured magazine, and as there is no mainstream or niche magazines that focus predominantly on the mods, it required me to create many forms and conventions which would relate to a wholly unique house style, particularly for mods. One example of a form and convention my magazine uses that relates to other magazines is how the masthead was designed. It is made on a red background with the magazine name spelt with the initials only, TMM. The masthead is similar in size and design to NME's and in style to Q's, a mainstream example of magazines that influenced my making of my magazine. It fitted with the connotations behind my magazine, which as it does towards NME. My reasons for this is because the use of red is popular in mod culture as it does in the indie subculture, as it mediates passion, but in a lot of ways conflict or a clash, much like the clash between mods and rockers in 60s youth culture, documented by Stanley Cohen in 1972. One example of a form or convention I've challenged is the main cover image. In most of my front covers of the magazines I've used for inspiration have had a full band as a main cover image together. However, I wanted to challenge this and base my inspiration on the design of my main cover image on an issue of Q with a close-up of Liam Gallagher. I replicated this, however, using effects to place the two other members of the band in his glasses. This creates a stylized, artist and contemporary image of the featured artist, an almost ideal self, Carl Rogers 1980, of the artist. I've also challenged the conventions of other magazines through the house style of TMM. I've used colours such as blue, red and white for the magazine's house style. The connotations of these colours relate heavily to the mod subculture, as the culture originates in Britain and a popular symbol of the mod subculture is the RAF symbol, which uses colours red, white and blue, and thus why I've used these colours for the TMM house style. I've also used and challenged several conventions of music magazines in my contents page. The example of which influenced TMM's contents page was a contents page from an issue of Q magazine, a magazine that influenced how I created TMM heavily. An example of a convention I used is the use of a banner at the top of the contents page, similar to that in the Q magazine contents page. This helped me create an authenticity in the magazine as it used a convention as part of the house style that would be familiar to a readership. However, I have challenged the house styles usage in TMM's contents page as opposed to my example contents page in Q magazine. In the issue of Q, the contents page uses several different colours, gold, black, red and white. However, in TMM's contents page, I have stuck to using the red, blue and white house style in the contents page. My reasoning for this is that as it is the first issue, I wanted the reader to associate TMM with the house style colours, which themselves are incorporated because of their link with the mod subculture. Another convention I've challenged is the iconography of the images used on my contents page. One image in particular is the images of the scooter used for my scooter review article. Whereas the images in Q magazine's contents page, they have used artists and individuals, which elements such as clothing of the artist and location of the photographs to connote the iconography of the image and to relate it to the mod subculture, I have deliberately used a large image of Vespa scooter whose iconography vividly relates to the mod subculture and therefore relates to the reader much better. I've also challenged the conventions of the music magazines I have researched in regards to how I have set out my double page spread. The double page spread in particular I studied was an issue of Q, an article featuring Roger Daltrey and his time in The Who. The article was written in the form of an interview with Roger Daltrey. However, I challenged this by doing a gonzo journalistic Hunter S. Thompson 1970 article on a new band, having a first-person account and narrative of the day's events with the band, including quotations, pull quotes, sarcasm, humour and exaggeration. My reasoning for this was that I wanted the reader to relate to the writer's feelings towards the band and their new album, thus breaking down a barrier between the magazine and the reader, which could be evident with the issue being TMM's first. I wanted the reader to believe in the magazine's link with mod culture, clearly by being more involved in it, something which a gonzo journalistic style of writing can achieve.